All right, beautiful people. Good day, good day, good day. Welcome back to the channel. So right now we're working with this beautiful girl, Black Shepherd, Miss Leia here. Miss Leia has some extreme fear and anxiety, which turns into aggression, right? Specifically on the leash, right? Towards other people and other dogs, right? So what we've been doing with Miss Leia here is really, one, just building confidence, right? Building trust, right? So, we've had her about a week now, and, the trust is better, but it's still not where I like it to be, right? And, here's the thing, folks, you can't rush that process, right? There's things you can do to expedite it, but you can't rush it, right? Which means there's techniques like hand feeding. Leia, yes, good girl, sit. That's a good girl, right? There's things like that that we can do to expedite the process, but I cannot rush that process for her. I have to allow her to adjust on her own time, right? But again, there's things like hand feeding, right? Or just spending time with the dog, just spending time, bonding with the dog, right? Rubbing on the dog, just giving the dog love to help her expedite that process, right? So that's really what we've been doing, and she's coming along really well. I can tell you the first couple of days with her was rough. It was rough, it was rough, but as you can see, it's much better now. So now what we're starting to transition into is the, formal training, right? Now she actually knows the basic obedience commands, right? But what she doesn't know is duration, which basically means, it basically is a fancy way of saying stay, right? So really what we're gonna be focusing on with her is her impulse control, which is gonna help her with the stay command. Now, I personally do not use the word stay. My stay is an implied stay, which means when I say sit, that means stay in that sit until I ask you to do something else, right? So essentially what it is holding a dog accountable to doing what I asked you to do, right? That's how I build the automatic stay in my commands, right? So let me give you an example, right? So Miss Leia, come right here. Yes, place, sit. Now what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna move, but just because I move doesn't mean you move, right? So let me show you what that looks like. Wait for this car to go by. Sit. Yes, good girl. So just because I move, nope, sit. Good. So all I'm gonna do, every time I move, if she moves, she gets corrected. If she doesn't move, then she gets rewarded, right? So let's try it again. Nope, sit. Good girl. Nope, sit. Now, right now, I'm not looking for her to stay in place, right? That's the next level, right? Or stay in a specific spot where I originally put her. All I want her to do is when I put her in a sit, I move. All I want her to do is stay in that sit for the moment. Down the road, once she gets this concept, then we can work on her staying in the specific spot that I put her in, right? Nope, sit. Yes, good girl. That's a good girl. Yes, good girl. Good girl. Now this is very sit. Yes, good girl. Good girl. Now this is very important for a dog like her that has extreme leash reactivity, right? You have to have a solid foundation on the dog. That way, when you get into a situation where you're in spaces with other dogs and other people, you have the control over the dog to where she can fight that impulse to be reactive, right? Because if I tell you to sit, that means stay in that sit. I don't care what's going on, right? I don't care if there's 15 dogs in front of you. I don't care if there's 30 people in front of you that you're scared of. When I tell you to stay in that sit, that means stay in that sit, right? So as you can see, it doesn't take long, right? If you know what you're doing to implement the plan, if you know how to communicate properly with the dog, right? So now if you notice, she got up after I gave her the food. I'll accept that for now, right? And this is where discernment comes in, because if you notice, she stayed in the sit. That's what I wanted her to do in that moment, right? I'm not looking for her to be perfect. I'm just looking for her to do the one thing that I want her to do, right? If you guys watch any of my other videos, you will notice I do a lot of compound training, right? But what I also do, depending on the dog, I will be hyper focused on one thing, just depending on the dog, right? So again, it's about being able to adjust to the dog, right? This is why I tell people all the time, it's not really my job to train your dog. And what I mean by train, most people want sit, down, come, stay, heel, and recall, right? That's what most people want. Those are really mechanical things that you can teach a dog fairly easily. The problem is most people don't understand the psychology behind communicating with a dog. And that's my goal, is to teach you guys how to properly communicate with your dog. That way, when you ask them to do something, the response is much better, right? So let's do it again. Leia, come. Yes. Come on, right here. Place. Sit. Yes, good girl. Now I'm gonna move. Again, I don't want her to move when I move, unless I tell her to move. Ah. Sit. Yes, good girl. Now, if you notice with her, right, I'm giving her, sit. Good girl. I'm giving her verbal praise every time she sits. The only reason why I'm doing that, as you can see, anxiety, fear, right? So I have to counterbalance with a dog like this that lacks confidence. I have to counterbalance with that positive reinforcement, because if you do too much negative, that's how you shut a dog down, right? So again, this is where you have to use discernment, understanding the dog you're dealing with. Some dogs, I don't have to constantly do that reinforcement, right? They don't need it. Their confidence levels are already high. But because she needs confidence building, right, I'm going to continue to do that until her confidence levels increase. Yes, good girl. Sit. Good girl. All I want her to do is stay as I'm at. Sit. Sit. Yes, good girl. Good girl. Now I'm going to give her a little bit of food, because that was a lot of pressure just now, right? That was a lot of pressure. That was a lot of corrections, right? And I just want to keep her engaged, right? With a dog like this, you can't put a lot of pressure on them at one time. You got to relieve some of that pressure, right? Even if it's going against what you're looking to do, you have to lose that battle to win the war, right? This is where discernment kicks in, and this is where a lot of trainers, they lack the discernment, right? Sit. Yes, that's a good girl. That's a good girl. Now I'm gonna come in and just give her some physical love, right? What we're gonna do, we're gonna hit a reset free. Yes, come on, come on, good girl. Good girl, come on. Good girl, come on. Yes. Leia, yes, good girl. Come right here. Good girl, yes. Good girl. Yes, come. Yes, come on. Come on, come on, come on. Good girl. That's a good girl. Just doing a reset, right? I always like to pick a dog up, right? Just to get that affection in, right? Good girl. Yes, that's a good girl. Yeah, that's a good girl, right? All this physical contact resets the brain, and it builds trust, right? It builds trust. So you got to be willing to get dirty, as you can see. Yes, that's a good girl. That's a good girl. You see how she came back to me for that reassurance? That's what I want, right? That's how you build trust in a dog. Leia, yes. Come on, right here. Come on, right here. Yes. Place. Sit. Yeah, that's a good girl. Yes, that's a good girl. Yes. Good girl. Sit. Sit. Yes. Good girl. Good girl. Yes, that's a good girl. Yes, good girl. Sometimes you got to take a step back, right? So moving in circles was probably too much for her. So I said, let me just walk back and forth. Sit. Good girl. Yes. That's a good girl. That's a good girl. Yes. Sit. Yes, good girl. Free. Yeah, that's a good girl. So, look, folks, what else can I show you, man? Communication, proper communication, right? What did what did Kendrick Lamar say in this video with or in that song with Drake? Proper communication rules the nation, right? So you have to understand how to communicate with a dog in order to get the results that you're looking to get. As always, folks, if you have any questions, don't hesitate to reach out. You can text me 815-351-6636. You can send me a direct email, thestructuredk9academy@gmail.com. You can also comment in the video below. And remember, a structured canine is a happy canine. And don't forget on your way out to like, share, and subscribe. And until the next video, peace and prosperity. Leia, come on, mama. Yes, right here. Place. Sit. Right here, come on. Yes, there we go. That's a good girl. Yes, that's a good girl. Yeah, I know. Give me the hand. Okay, there you go. That's a good